Hi, it's Joey Reynolds rap with Robert Fleischer, the world famous artist who did the background here. This is he's the usher. He was the usher at Carnegie Hall for too many years, and they had to they never fired him. They gave him more work.
They kept giving me more work.
Yeah, when they give you more work, you quit.
No, it was fun.
Nobody works anymore.
Backstage.
Do they still have ushers?
Oh yeah.
It's not automated?
It's a union thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Robert was there for what, 25? Is it 25
20,
years?
20.
20 years. That's a long time to keep a
it
job.
went by pretty quick. It was to support the creative freedom. This painting behind me took 4.5 years of working backstage at the esteemed Carnegie Hall. It's a lot of fun.
That's a painting of an orchestra, the Russian orchestra.
Right. Leonard Bernstein is conducting it, and it was originally the USSR orchestra from Moscow. And what I liked about it was, this is like 1987, 1988, is that the Russians lined their double basses up in one line, encircling the back of the orchestra, whereas in American orchestras, they clump them together in a little group. And I think it sounds better when the basses are spread out. So I just, my friend Steve Sherman, who was taking pictures from backstage for the New York Times, I asked him to take some pictures from this little window that gets a really good shot of the conductor for the newspaper. I asked him to take pictures of the whole orchestra if he could do it for me, which he did, and I used those as a reference to do this painting. Except for the lower third half, I had to wing it with that. So I used the harps to fill in the foreground and had harp players sit there while I stood on a chair, because you're looking slightly down on it. And I pieced it together, but it took about 4.5 years.
Wow.
Anyway.
And you put your friends in there.
You're in there.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. But you put famous people and friends. You've had a lot of famous people when you were the usher. I mean, you had even my favorite cheesecake guy, Paul Newman.
Oh yeah.
Now you know why I said that, right? Because he's my model.
Uh-huh.
I want to be known for my great on the air stuff, and you just saw that I was put in the Encyclopedia Britannica, right?
Right. That's excellent.
And it's a wonderful honor.
Britannica.com.
People are going to forget all of this when they eat my cheesecake, and that's why I'm bringing it up, is that Paul Newman became more famous for his food than he did his Academy Award-winning performances,
Yeah.
because time goes on and people forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, new generations, they know you for what you're doing in the moment.
Except for you, artists.
Well,
you guys are forever. See, that's the difference.
Yeah, we have to die first, and then.
Yeah, but look at what happens. I mean, your work goes on forever.
As long as the planet goes on.
Yeah. And mine is just temporary. I'm only a citizen for a short time, and whatever I left behind belongs to all you guys.
Well, you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's a museum that lives on.
That and $1 will get you.
Yeah, well,
that
it's
and $5 will get you Starbucks.
It's a scratch on the marble of life.
So you got me in here playing the viola.
Correct.
I have no musical talent at all.
Doesn't matter. My Aunt Marion, who's a piano teacher, is playing a viola too. My grandfather's playing the bassoon, but he did play the bassoon in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra from World War II until about 1965. So I grew up with him practicing the bassoon after dinners over at my grandparents' house. Solo bassoon is still one of my favorite sounds of any instrument. Paul and Joanne had season tickets. They had the opera, they had the orchestra, the New York Pops. They were there all the time.
Yeah.
And because I was supervisor, I helped them out with some ticket snafus once, and we became friends for 15 years.
Who are the other people?
Oh my God, there's so many.
The regulars. There were a lot of regulars.
A lot of regulars that are, of course, were not famous, but were amazing people. One of them coined the phrase Captain Bob. He originally started calling me Mr. Carnegie, and I said, no, there's only one Mr. Carnegie. People were calling me Robert.
Who is Mr. Carnegie?
Andy.
Andrew Carnegie.
Andy, yeah. Actually,
oh, yeah, you and he were best of friends.
Well, I wasn't there that long.
No.
But so this guy who was there all the time as a patron very outgoing, funny guy said, you're going to be Captain Bob. So it stuck like
Yeah.
glue. I was embarrassed about it at first for a while, but when management started calling me that, I figured I'd surrender. But it was actually Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward apparently overheard some people referring to me like that. And when they came up to me, they came up to me every time they were there to say hello. But when they called me Captain Bob, I completely surrendered to it. I realized Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward are calling me that, and I got to just embrace it. And you know, he always talked about luck.
Yeah.
He believed in luck. He said, just do what you're doing. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop. Perseverance. You know, luck is a residue of, you know, preparation. So stay prepared, stay ready, and that's what I've been doing my whole life.
Well, you know, he was a race car driver too.
Yes, he was.
As an avocation. Plus, he had a lot of beer. He drank a lot of beer.
He did.
And he was known for that at school. At college, at Princeton, I think they have a Paul Newman Day, they call it, where everybody gets obliterated with beer. But he didn't want that.
No.
He asked him to stop doing that because he got sober.
He was actually a good practical joker too. He and Robert Redford always played practical jokes on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a very funny guy.
Those were great days, the Hollywood days of, there were stars. You know, we didn't have celebrities, we had stars. And we don't have them so much now.
Right.
We have celebrities, they're famous people, but they're not the ones that you are in awe of. And even on television, who was the guy that used to come to the Carnegie Hall as a news anchor?
Peter Jennings.
Oh yeah, Peter Jennings was on ABC. There were a lot of famous people there. Who else? From
my God,
60 Minutes. Who was on 60 Minutes? You had Barbara Walters too.
Well, she came a couple times. Andy Rooney came up a few times.
Yeah, I was thinking of Andy Rooney. And your cousin, James Lipton.
Peter
Is he in the painting?
Yeah, my whole family. Once I got the orchestra and I had 100 seats in a little section behind your head. You can't see it, but there's a group of about 100 seats in the audience. And as I started filling in the seats, all these little people started looking the same. And I realized, because it's an oil painting, you can paint over it. I started putting my family, my mom, dad, my sister, my friends, family, cousins.
Your sister?
Everybody that I know.
And your sister collected ceramic dolls with?
Well, they were one-of-a-kind handmade dolls.
With?
Demi Moore started collecting
Demi Moore. Yeah, I'm trying to get the celebrity names out here because my point is not to show off so much. Because you've been around celebrities all your life, but stars are exceptional, and why do we not have them anymore? Like
There's
like
too
a
many.
Barbara Streisand, you know, we don't. Why don't we not have a star? You know, someone who's so.
You know, we've got.
we get stuck with Kelly Clarkson.
Well, no, she's very talented.
Well, yeah, but it's not about talent. It's about stardom.
Well, it's also about, you know, talent, and there's a lot of people that are famous for being famous, like the Kardashians. Nothing wrong with them, but
I wouldn't call them stars.
Well, that they're famous, so.
Well, a lot of people are. I'm famous.
Yeah,
So what? I'm not
well,
a star.
What are you talking about then? Well, so.
A star is someone that you're in awe of. That you at the Friars Club. If I were to take you to lunch at the Friars Club 10 years ago, and you were to sit next to, pick someone other than Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal, who are both pretty famous. But if I took you to lunch and you were sitting there, and in walked, let's say, pick someone you like. Who's a great star? Who's a great star in your life?
Oh my God. Well,
Jerry Lewis.
I mean, you know,
All right, he wasn't your guy, but mention someone, or a woman or a guy. Who are you in awe of?
I guess I'm in awe of some musicians. Of course, Paul McCartney.
Okay, so Paul McCartney was sitting at the next table. You would probably be gawking, and you wouldn't finish your meal. You'd be sitting there. You certainly wouldn't pick up your cell phone.
Well, no, he's he did.
Wait.
Yeah.
My point.
Yeah.
He's a star. He's a star. Now, if you're sitting next to Beyonce, she's not a star.
Well,
she's famous, but she's not a star.
She's a pretty bright star.
No, she's not a star because you're not in awe of her. It's not like
that's the weird thing about fame is that it's an individual thing. I've never been able to get my head around what it is, how you get it, how you hold on to it. I don't understand it at all.
Well, I do. It's when you have a hit movie or a hit record.
Yeah, but you still have to put your
And you're a
pants on.
celebrity, but to be a star, you have to be someone that's unreachable. Lady Gaga is almost there.
Except my experience is the bigger they are, the more reachable they are. Like Paul and Joanne were very accessible. When I
Well, they
met
both
Paul,
were. They were exceptional actors too, and Academy Award-winning actors.
right, and of course when I met Paul McCartney when he came to the theater, he put his
Beatles.
arm around me and he was very accessible, very friendly and down to
Well, I
earth.
wasn't talking about that. I'm talking about the awe of, not
yeah.
not how friendly you are. I was friendly with a lot of them. I worked with them because I had to do all the grunt work. You know,
Yeah, being in
I didn't
awe.
stand in awe of them.
Yeah, I think that yeah, it's about accomplishments. I mean, I'm in awe of the of people who excel in what they do.
Yeah, like Putin.
Well, like you've excelled in what they do. Putin is a criminal. But
No, you're kidding.
yeah, he's a war criminal.
And so now let me bring this around to that. This is your take on the usher. Is
Oh God,
talking
we're
now.
going from this to that.
No, well, it's all the same. You know, celebrityhood, stardom, fame, and fortune. Fortune is what determines fame.
Not
Well,
necessarily.
Well, you could pay a publicist.
That's true.
Howard Stern paid $15,000 a week to have a publicist
And you can be famous.
and to stay famous. I think.
I think the star on the Hollywood Walk is you pay for that.
Yeah, you do pay for it. You know, I took Soupy sales there with at that time Johnny Grant was the mayor of Hollywood of the Walk of Fame, and he would never let anybody dishonor him in any way, shape, or form. But he allowed Soupy sales to give him a pie in the face. Now, you know, that was
That's in awe.
the only time he ever let anybody do that. Because Soupy was so,
I mean,
that was he famous for that.
Yeah, when I met Soupy through you, I was in awe. I grew up watching Soupy.
But did you get pied?
No.
Frank Sinatra got pied.
Well, if it's Soupy that's doing it, you know, I mean, it's a claim to fame.
So if you're sitting there in a restaurant and Frank Sinatra walks in,
Well, I was in awe watching Frank perform one of his last performance at Carnegie. He was forgetting the lyrics.
yeah, I know.
Nobody cared.
At Shea Stadium, he used a scoreboard to see the.
Right. Well, this was a very loving crowd. Everybody knew he had
Well, he's-
dementia or Alzheimer's. He was supported. It was something to see. Carnegie Hall was like they were coming to tell him they loved him, and he was very good to the people that worked for him. Debbie King, who recently passed away, she was backstage every night. She took care of all the maestros, all the stars in the maestro suite. She was the soul, as Yo-Yo Ma said, she was the soul of Carnegie Hall. And she was. And she loved Frank Sinatra, and he was very good to her. She said to him, she said to him, I want to meet, Debbie was somebody that was not in awe of anybody. She worked at the medical examiner's office and saw all the dead people. So she knew we were all going there. So she wasn't in awe of any of these famous conductors at all, which is why she was so good at what she did backstage. But Frank said to her, is there anybody you'd like to meet? And she said, I'd love to meet Sammy Davis Jr. He's the only one I really care about. And Frank said, I'll see what I can do about it. But it never happened. He never was able to bring Sammy to the hall. And so she never, as far as I know, she never met Sammy Davis. For somebody like Debbie to be in awe of Sammy Davis Jr. was something, because she was included in liner notes of all these famous conductors, Riccardo Muti, and I mean, Yo-Yo Ma was a great friend of hers, and Isaac Stern, of course, president of Carnegie Hall, and famous.
Who greatly admired you.
And we became very good friends. Yeah, it's a lot of memories, you know, but we're all tied to nature. And that's why, you know, the Joey Reynolds cheesecake is the joy of life.
Oh yes, I give you a card.
Here's
the
your card.
Joey Reynolds cheesecake
There
card.
it is. Let me get that right.
Have you
up
seen
there.
that?
That's right. JoeyReynolds.com. No,
Don't do
JoeyReynoldsCheesecake.com.
that. Such a cheap shot.
I know.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine Paul Newman holding up his popcorn?
There we go. There we go.
But what I'm most proud of
Yeah.
is that I have for radio and television, I've become a real sucker.
No. Oh. Oh, hey, you're on that sucker. What do you know about that?
Well, here I am, sucker.
Can you see that?
I don't know. Can you
The
see
cellophane is making it
it?
hard to
Oh,
see.
well, it's terrible.
Well, don't take the cellophane off.
Oh, okay.
Because, just
We got to keep the chocolate works
see,
alive,
see
right?
if we can do this.
Oh, isn't that great?
See if the
So,
lighting, get the
I'm-
lighting just right.
And you know that this is just as famous as Bed Bath and Beyonce.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you know, I mention these Latter-day Saints because I'm older, and when you talk to people in my demographic, I say, or in my senior years, they always talk about those people we were just talking about, the Paul McCartneys, who's still active and working, and even Ringo is working. But they speak of Frank Sinatra, they speak of Barbra Streisand, names we just mentioned, and they're some of them are past. Barbara's not past, but when people my age don't think that the newcomers are as exciting, is it because we grew up with the others and we won't let go, or I'm trying to figure out what the status is.
Again, I don't know, because it's a mystery to me how it works, what is fame. It's people.
It's luck.
Well, it's, as Paul said, it's luck, but it's also kind of an intangible. Like, you're in the minds of total strangers, as many as you can. I mean, people have different pockets of fame. Like, I was in awe of Les Paul and Sid Bernstein, but they weren't household names. I mean, Les Paul was in the music industry, but these were two guys that accomplished incredible things in their lives. So I knew about them, so I was in awe of them. But Les could walk around and be left alone, and so could Sid. It's not like you needed a bodyguard to walk around the city with them. So I just kind of let that go. And speaking of, the Fab Four, it was back when the Beatles broke up, and George said, "You mean I don't have to be a Beatle anymore?" He was excited. He never cared for fame. He
Well,
thought
that's not exactly true. Not exactly true.
He said it was the biggest waste of time to chase it.
Well, yeah, later after you make it, you could say that.
Yeah,
But
well,
when he was struggling in a club in the basement with smoke in his face.
yeah, that's not fame.
No.
But when he had to get into an armored car where was it? In
One of the concerts.
the last concert in August, I want to say San Francisco. And they had to get in an armored car, take in second base, play the concert, and get back in the armored car. George said, "That's it, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore." And they went into the studio. Thank God they did, because Revolver, Abbey Road, Sgt. Pepper, all that came out of the studio. So.
Well, see, you have a great admiration because you're a musician, and you also made your own guitar. You made it by hand. You made it by. You even made the wood. Well,
I didn't make the wood. I bought the
thought you
wood out
did.
of the lumberyard. I didn't make the
I
wood.
thought you grew it.
No. I bought a block of wood out of the lumberyard, and it took 2.5 years to carve
And you made a guitar.
out a
And you brought it to
Hofner.
Les Paul.
And he signed it. He was amazed at it, and he looked at it all over the place, and he signed it. And I have a picture of us when he signed. He had a cold that day. His nose was red. He was still.
No, that was from all the drugs.
No. He had a cold that day. But he was so gracious and generous with his time, and took his time with me and looking at the guitar. And, I ended up showing Paul that a piece of paper of the block of wood and the progression it took in the 2.5 years it took to make. And he was also very generous. He looked at it and went, "Straight up, man."
Well, my daughter Mercedes went to school for troubled teens for 5 years at DeSisto School in Stockbridge, which she thought was going to be a private academy in the Berkshires, which it was.
It was.
So I was in the parent group, and Les promised, Les and I were good friends, and Les promised Mercedes that when she graduated from school, he would give her guitar lessons, and he did. Do you know that?
No,
I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she was, I think at that time, 17
Or
years old.
18, yeah. Because I went with you to do this intervention and drop her off up there. And
Oh, yeah.
never forget the look on her face when we were leaving and she wasn't. It was, you
funny
saved her
now.
life. You did. You saved her life.
I
And
think-
Mercedes.
I think Michael DeSisto was a genius.
And Kristen has saved, helped
And
save
you know
her
who
life.
started that school?
And so Carolyn also.
Who
Yeah.
started the school? Michael DeSisto.
Michael
And who was
DeSisto.
it funded by?
By
It's on your painting.
Bernstein?
Yes, you didn't know
Oh,
that?
no, I didn't. No.
Yes, and every time they needed money, they went to Joseph Papp,
Mm-hmm.
who had partnership with not Sid Bernstein, but with Leonard Bernstein.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've seen one Steen, you've seen them all.
Right. No, he's another one. Michael DeSisto was an amazing
Yeah.
person. Another one that I was in awe of.
I can give you his quotes. One of them that is my favorite. He said, "I didn't like school, but I like to learn."
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
and that's the case with a lot of us. You know, see, I don't have any technical skills. Like you are a detail person, and your paintings, everything is detail work, and you examine everything about it. And I'm a broad brush guy. You know,
Right. You're a
I'm a
big
second
brush.
story thief. You know, I mean, I don't know
You're
how.
a humorist.
Well, on occasion, but you know, mostly I'm a pain in the ass. But what happens is I am now having a challenge with electronics. Like AT&T has decided that they're going to be in the television business. You know, they were in the phone business to begin with. Now they bought that DirecTV, which is a satellite dish. It was a company that was going broke. They brought it to light, and they didn't realize, I think, that they had to spend a lot of money for sports franchises. They didn't have the foresight, and it drove them broke. So they had to get rid of that monster, and they brought Warner Brothers in, and they now developed a streaming DirecTV. So you know that dish that I have on the roof here? That's the satellite dish, and that's the famous one with the channels that you change. Do you know what the streaming is? The streaming is all internet stuff. That's over the air, through the air, but not with a dish like that.
Right.
So you can take it anywhere. The streaming thing has a home base. I have this right now. And to install it, the people who do the DirecTV, regular DirecTV, don't know how to do high test. And they're like, it's like all of a sudden they don't know what they're doing. And they came over the house yesterday and they're trying to fix my DirecTV stream. And somebody peed in the stream. They don't know how to do this. So,
You know.
but you see, I don't know how to do it. And I
Yeah.
told them, you know, I got somebody in the Philippines, lovely people, but I can't understand. I'm losing my hearing, you know, because of all the music and all the things that I don't want to hear about the world. You know, I got a block on my ear. I don't want to hear Putin. I don't want to hear Trump. I don't want to hear any crap anymore. I'm tired of WKRP. No more crap.
What about getting the wax out of your ears?
I don't have wax in my ears. I am mentally challenged with news, media, and lawyers advertising. I can't stand to
I
watch
know, it
lawyers
gets you going.
advertising. You know why?
I know, it
Because they
gets-
make money off of your accident, which they didn't have. Now, if they were in my accident, they would be entitled to 50% or 60 or whatever they
But
want.
that's your Voltaire humorism.
Well, but it's disgusting. You know, we paid for breakfast this morning. Let me tell you what I had.
It was
I paid
painful.
$50 for breakfast once at the Plaza Hotel in New York when I had a client. And let me tell you about that experience. It was owned by Donald Trump at the time, and his wife at the time was a lovely person too. You know, she just died recently this year.
Yeah.
Ivana. Now, Ivana Trump had a great eye, and the flowers at the Plaza Hotel were flown in from Belgium every day. I mean, you know, they really were extravagant. They had the money, they spent the money. They had this elegant Plaza Hotel with the fountain in front and the horse and carriages in front and all that. You know, they kept that great turn of the century look.
Right.
With today's technology, of course, it's a whole different thing. It's now done with the reality is done with what do you call it again when you're taking a tour of something, and it's not real.
Hologram.
I forgot the name. for it, but I'm stopping my story. So anyway,
Yeah, $50 breakfast.
yeah, back to that. I do.
It's
I have.
probably now 150.
I do maintain.
Or 200.
I do retain.
I just wanted to bring you back
Thank you.
to
Yeah, thank you. Well, you want to go back to what you were interested in, not
well,
the
the
other part.
$50 breakfast was.
Yeah, well, so $50. I was at the Plaza Hotel having breakfast in the Oak Room, and they don't have the prices on the menu.
Right. Of
Now, the
course.
reason they do that is because they're so overcharging. They don't want you to
if
run
you're
away.
there, you don't care about it. You don't care about
Well,
the money
you're
if you're
taking
there.
a client and you're going to dinner or breakfast or anything. I had breakfast. I said to the waiter, "Where's the prices?" Nobody asks that, you know. I mean,
No,
that's
very-
unholy to
Yeah.
to. Well, I
It's
mean,
very revealing.
yeah, God knows that I should want to know how much I'm going to spend here in this joint. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this thing, and I'm seeing all this stuff. And so the waiter says, "Well, what would you like for breakfast?" And I says, "I don't know." And I asked the person across from me, I said, "What would you like?" He said, "Well, I'd like what Donald Trump has." And I said, "Well, don't be ridiculous. Donald Trump has people like us for breakfast." So, you know, I mean, it wasn't.
You were prescient.
That was the price. So now it was $50. $50 for eggs that were sheared. They call them sheared. What the hell does that mean?
They're sheared.
Yeah, that means you put butter in a pan and you put the eggs on there, and they have a little coating on top. You know, the egg must have gotten laid by
my
an
God.
expensive. Yeah, I know.
But anyway, getting back
So
to
back
the
to this.
$50.
So we went to this breakfast this morning, you and I, at
And it
this
wasn't
first.
the Oak Room.
No, at the First Watch in Fort Lauderdale.
Is it? No, it's Tamarack, isn't it?
Well, that's Fort Lauderdale. It's all the same market. People
We're-
in
There's a parking lot
well,
right
people
there.
in China don't know Tamarack. They know Fort Lauderdale. All right. So now we're at the First Watch restaurant, which is inhabited by a lot of outside people,
You know, we're
like you with
outside.
your dog.
Yeah.
And then they bring
There's
us.
another dog over
They
there.
brought us a pancake with egg on top.
2 pancakes with 2 eggs on top, $50.
How do they get away with that? Because you can't fight them after the check arrives.
You know, repeat business is a problem.
Well, I'm not going back there.
No, I can't afford it.
I can use it. I make it at home.
You know, Voltaire said, if you convince people of absurdities, you can convince them to commit atrocities. So now they're charging $6 for a Diet Coke at the airport because it's at the airport.
$4.20.
$4.20. I'm sorry, but anything else is like $10 at the airport.
Well, the server today at the First Watch told us, Patrick is his name. He said, "I was in Orlando last week and I had $8 for a bottle of water." And I said, "What was it? Spark? You know, the big thing?" No, one little bottle of water. I mean, what are we doing to each other? What are we trying to do? Are we trying to see who can charge the most and get away with it?
Greed.
Is that the game?
Greedflation.
Yeah, but what is it? Is it who can get away with? You keep raising it until it has no bottom or top. It's like ego, and so we're in a. Now, why don't we talk about that with elections? Never mind how bad Marco Rubio is, and or whoever the hell he is, and yeah, he's running ads like he's the saint. And then the other one, the governor they have here, who shows his Navy pictures.
Yeah, now they're doing that.
Why don't I pull my Boy Scout pictures out and
You
show
know-
where I'm an Eagle Scout? What the hell is that?
Yeah,
Do good and avoid evil, you know. I mean, what? Anyway, the politics of it. Why don't we talk about the money part of it?
Well, the
How
money-
much they spent on their campaign, how much they paid on the hiring the lawyers and the PR firms, how much they're paying to persuade us, how they're conducting their money, and why they're not voting while they're sitting in Congress and Senate to put a stop on the amount of money that people can charge.
For what I understand, when you become a representative in Congress, in the House or the Senate, you have to raise 5 figures every day for the entire term of your stay in the Senate or the
Raise
House.
it where? How?
It's fundraising. You have to, in order to have the war chest. The other thing is Citizens United, unregistered, like dark money. You don't know where it's coming from. When the
How could nobody know where it's coming from?
Citizens United was a Supreme Court decision in 2010, in January, where they said that corporations are people too. And so that opened the floodgates for anonymous money. You could create a PAC. You don't know where the money is coming from. I mean, in 2016, Russian money was filtered through the NRA to the Trump campaign.
Is that a fact, or you're just saying
millions
that
of
because
dollars?
of
No, this
politics?
is a well-known fact.
Because people watching this thing get mad. They say,
No,
"Oh, he's an
no.
anti-Republican."
So then the Mueller report, which was another thing, but there was they followed the money trail,
Yeah.
and who knows where the money is coming from. They have to, and in the ruling that the Supreme Court made about Citizens United, they said that it's up to the legislature to pass a law to change this. But the Supreme Court was just ruling on, freedom of speech, the First Amendment and protecting that. But it's up to the legislature to do away with it. Now there's a movement in Congress to do away with Citizens United, to get rid of all this unaccounted for money that influences people who control our laws.
But the guys who are taking the money are the ones who are voting on it. So how are they going to vote against it? It's like the record business,
Yes, that's
And radio. Look at the radio business. They're the ones who are controlling the media. They tell you what they want you to know so that they can fill themselves with whatever they want. But they report everybody else's mistakes.
That's why I think elections matter. If candidates say that they want to amend or do away with dark money and from Citizens United, there are people who are running for office that want to do that. There was in one of the bills before Congress just recently through the current President Biden administration, they wanted to do campaign finance reform and do away with Citizens United. You've got a evenly divided Senate, so you need 60 votes instead of 51.
Yeah, so what?
So it means that it's harder to get things done.
Well, why should it be hard at all to tell people to not be corrupt?
Exactly.
And to not take what doesn't belong to you?
That's why you have.
And why do you have all these 80-year-old guys, like people my age, running the country? What the hell is that all about?
Right. Well, and also you've got older white guys
That's me.
telling women they don't have the right to choose what they want to do with their
that's
families.
not me.
No, right, and it's not most Americans. 75-80% of Americans don't want congressmen or senators dictating what you should do between you and your family and your doctor. It shouldn't be about somebody in Washington or in the state house in any of the states across the country. I mean, taking away a woman's right to confer with her doctor instead of having laws, making them criminal, making the doctors criminal.
I'm Catholic
it's
raised,
crazy.
and I'm Catholic raised, and I don't believe
So
that.
yeah,
I believe
women
that.
have to save the democracy. You have to get out there and vote. Women
Well,
could save.
you're on this voting thing. I'm on this other thing, which is to start to think right and raise your family and let the
that
votes
too.
go. I mean, the voting is controlled by the fundraising. You're saying it already.
Well, it's
so it
influenced.
doesn't matter how much you vote or where you vote, because it's still the same money source that needs to be stopped. You can't be buying people's favors. It's called lobbying.
Well, it's called.
Why do we have lobbying?
It's called payola.
Well, I know what it's called. I was a radio.
Yeah,
member.
I know.
We were taken to task for that. Why is the Congress and the Senate not taken to task for taking money that doesn't belong to them?
Because they want to keep their power.
Well, so what? Who the hell cares what they want?
Well, they're the ones that have the seat. That's why elections matter.
So why does elections matter? You're going to vote for people and they're on the take anyway. What's the difference?
Well, you can vote them out and vote in someone new.
Well, who's someone new? They all are funded.
A public sentiment.
Nobody can run for office without money. Nobody.
That's right. And they
And
used
we got rid of the equal time law on broadcasting, and that was the beginning of the end of it. It was not about. It's about money, and so you can't vote for somebody thinking that they're not going to want to take money to stay in office. That's a foolish thought.
Candidates used to get the same amount of money. The government would give each candidate, if you had a certain amount of support, you would get some money to run your campaign. That was decades ago.
Okay, now let's go into this
ago.
one. This is the Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic hires doctors at the same rate of pay so that they will all work in a team, and they are all paid the same amount of money. This is not a private practice where everybody gets whatever they want to take. and it works a lot better because they're more interested in the patient than they are in the dollar.
Right.
That's what has to change. So it's a change of what? A change of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And the attitude is not changing. You know, you still got people playing that game. Why is it every day we're running for office? How many? When does this end? When do we stop voting? When do we stop running for office? When do we stop looking at all these guys who want to be something that they're not? And you know what? They gave themselves everything that they should have given the public. We voted them in office so we would have better jobs, more money, maybe better opportunities, raising our children, having freedom. We voted them for that. So they get in office, they give themselves a lifetime job, prestige, they give themselves full medical, retirement money. They take everything that we voted for them for and give it to themselves. Does anybody see that?
Of course, we all see it. That's why there's.
So what does that do with the party? They're both the same.
No, the parties are different now. One party is for fixing potholes, the infrastructure plan, bringing manufacturing back to the country. The microchip manufacturing is being brought back. The other party is about power and control. It's obvious that the Republicans have been taken over by an autocratic, and I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody out there who's bought into the Kool-Aid, but all you have to do is look at the Republicans are about grievance, not policy, and the Democrats are talking about making our lives better, or at least trying to. But the Republicans right now, the MAGA Republicans, are just about hanging on to their fantasy that the election was stolen after 60 court cases, wouldn't hear of it, even, and a bunch of them were Trump-appointed judges. We all know this, most people do anyway. Anyway, the politics, I don't want to ruin this thing with politics, but elections matter. Just look at the last 7-8 years. Elections matter, how divided we become.
Well,
And the anti-Semitism and the whole thing is just out of control again. 75 years, have gone by, and
I think I would like to vote for the Stag Party. That's the party you have before you get married, when you go and get drunk.
Right. Common sense.
Common sense is not common.
I know. And well, that's where I was going.
That's a misnomer. And we don't have common sense anymore. You have uncommon sense. And you also have uncommon people.
But you also have cheesecake.
But you have $50 for breakfast.
Cheesecake.
Now,
you can get
I sold a slice of cheesecake at this great bandstand that I had. I had a booth at the San Gennaro Feast in Little Italy for 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
I was between Aleva and a Hard Place. The Aleva is charging $7 for a scoop of gelato. I charge $5 for a slice of cheesecake.
And this isn't just any cheesecake. This is gourmet cheesecake that's this thick. The crust goes up the side. It's moist. It's delicious.
It's $5.
It's $5.
Now, how would I feel if I charged $5 for a cheesecake, which means 6 slices would be $30? Now, how would
well, you couldn't make any. You couldn't.
Now, how would I do with the $50 breakfast?
Right.
How do you think I feel about that first watch? Now that I get $30 for the best cheesecake in the country that I could think of.
Well,
and,
I think
and they get $50 for 2 lousy turkey sausages and an egg.
And they got smaller. The turkey sausages got smaller.
Oh no, mine shrunk also. It's just the way it goes when you are being taken advantage of, and nobody wants to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Where does it stop?
The
buck stops where? With American Express. Where does the buck stop? It doesn't end. And what during World War II, and you know this from your father, who was an active soldier, and a wonderful soldier. We had rations in this country, and everybody was in on the horribleness of the war, and nobody would ever overcharge for anything. Otherwise, they get shot.
Well, because there was a sense of
So
community.
we just came off of 2 years of the whole world with a pandemic. The whole world.
And it's still not done with it. Still not done with it.
But we had a plague that killed people.
1 million Americans.
Okay, and it's not
Over.
like it was.
300 people are still dying every day.
But it's not what it was.
Right.
This is not the takeover of a disease running the whole planet. It was before. everybody got up in fear every day.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we wore masks for a year that I could think of.
More than that, probably.
Well, I was wearing one after I left the house.
I still wear one.
I was
now.
in the house all year. I didn't go anywhere. And then the next year I wore a mask to go out.
Everybody did.
And then I when I had this pandemic scare, I even wore gloves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm so tired of rubber, I won't use it on anything. But, you know, the thing that we do with this pandemic now is we have started to try to charge to make up for the money we lost during that 2 years when we didn't spend anything anyway. Why are we doing this to each other?
You know,
Where's the
it's
social conscience?
you know, you were talking. These rhetorical questions are tough to answer because it's all tied in with the global economy. Everything's shut down. They're still not back to working in China.
Yes, but so what?
It's
I mean, you know, but
supply
you begin.
and
What
demand.
Mother Teresa said, begin where you are. You
Right.
can't begin where you were. But
No.
see, we have a tendency to want to make back the money that we lost. What the hell is that? That's not beginning where you are. That's
know,
beginning where you thought you wanted to be.
Greedflation. Is that
Yeah,
what you're talking
well,
about?
it's got a name, but it also has a movement that doesn't get talked about. We don't talk about. People are taking the checks and they're signing them with their credit cards, like everything's just fine. It's not fine. Not at all. It isn't. It isn't appropriate. It's not right. And nobody wants to walk up to the counter and say, "What the hell are you charging me $4.20 for a Diet Coke for?" What they did at the airport at LaGuardia.
And the
And they said,
reason-
"Well, we're in the airport."
Airport, right.
What the hell does that have to do with anything?
That's the convincing people of absurdities, and you can commit atrocities. That's the same thing Putin's done in Ukraine, or I should say to his own population in Russia. He's convinced them that there were first Nazis in Ukraine, and then now he's shifted from that to declaring victory by stealing some property, you know, and having a big kumbaya moment. It's
Well, what's the
made
kumbaya moment?
Oh,
He met
it's
with all
fake.
his own fake people.
It's fake, yeah. Nobody wants to say no to the emperor, otherwise you're in the gulag. You give the emperor.
Well,
bad-
somebody better start saying no.
He's already fired the butcher,
Well, why don't they say no to this guy?
the general that took care of Syria.
Yeah, I know you said that already, but
Yeah.
why did they not say no to him? Well,
I don't know.
dogs rule.
Yeah, thank God. Anyway, yeah, no, I don't know, Joey, but we're. I just want to celebrate your cheesecake, and
Yeah, what's the good news? The good news is that you have a dog here that.
yeah, we're gonna get Mary up on the TV here. There's Mary.
Okay,
There's a
that's
dog
good.
next door, so she says none of this.
Dog's inside.
Yeah, she went inside. So Mary,
You
you've been
treat
very,
that dog like you're married.
her name is Mary. I
So
guess
there
I
you
am
go.
married.
Yeah, I guess. So here we are, sitting
Anyway,
here complaining
trying
about
to
high
solve
prices.
the world's problems once again.
Well, that's all right. This is what we need to do. People need to be aware of what the problems are and not pretend everything is just fine. It's not quite wonderful.
No, it's not.
And it can be fixed. It can be changed. And it's not about voting.
Oh,
It's about a change of heart. You have to change your mind and your
Right.
family and your heart. Then the votes will be there.
I think
People have to change.
That's true, but you have to do it all at the same time.
Well, you want to do it top down. I want to do it bottom up. That's
No,
all.
no,
We
no,
have
no.
two different approaches. Yours is to vote someone in office that's going to be your champion. I'm not looking for a hero.
No,
I'm
no. You're misunderstanding.
I'm doing it on the bottom side. I'm modeling for my grandchildren. I don't care about the other top side. Top side to me means nothing
Well,
because it's all funded.
yeah, but it affects all of our lives.
Well, everything affects all of your lives.
That's right.
I mean, you know, if you unzip your fly, it affects your life.
Well, I mean,
so what's the difference? I